Wow, you two were perfectly in sync with each other in my end. It was beautiful.
Weird.
Well, thank you for taking the time to sit down. It's been a hot second, but
Yeah.
I think maybe the last time we spoke was one of the charity streams, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yes,
When
you
got the
you
haircut.
shaved your head. Yeah.
That's right. Yes, it was that one, the big one.
That was fun.
Thank you for being on that. Before we start going into things, why don't we just do brief introductions here? Ayu, you want to start?
Sure. Hello, I am Ayu. I do a lot of things, but I'm probably best known for some voiceover work in anime, in Assassination Classroom, Black Clover, etc. I'm also currently directing the dub for the Quintessential Quintuplets. Outside of that, I am the writer for Pineapple Studio, including the comic series Ties That Bind, and I also write for Sake Visual, which is best known for its otome game Backstage Pass.
And Micah.
Hi, my name is Micah. I am a voice actor for anime and video games. You probably are more familiar with my work in shows like Soul Eater, Black Clover, Yuri on Ice, The Disastrous Life of Psyche K. And I'm also an illustrator. I am the other half of the Pineapple group that Ayu is the writer. I'm the illustrator, and I work on all the things that pretty much she does.
Now, while I have you here, just because oftentimes, you ever realize you've never actually said someone's last name out loud? Is it SOLUSOD? How do you say your last name?
SOLUSOD, yeah.
Got it. Got it in one. Cool.
Nailed it.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, I've never actually said his last
And you'll never have to. I'll never ask you to.
That's the thing, though. It's like there's people, I'm like, there have been people I've known for years, and I'm like, wait, how do you say your last name, actually? It has never, because no one ever goes, hey, I'm Sungwon Cho. No, it's just like, hey, Sungwon, what's up? Like,
it is weird that in this industry we refer to each other by full name. Like nowhere else is that a thing. You just say it's Sungwon, right?
Sure. Now, before we get into anything else, we asked Twitter, and one interesting response to suggestions came up from Joel McDonald, who, for those of you who are listening who may not know, he is currently the voice director at Gearbox, and he was at Funimation for quite some time. And what exactly is the story behind this? He writes, asked him about how hard I tried to keep Micah from proposing. What is the story behind this?
Oh boy.
Well,
yeah, you go first, and I guess I can pick up where that happens.
Okay. So I had a big plan for the day that I was planning to propose to Ayu. Oh yeah, we're married, in case anyone doesn't know.
I forgot to mention that.
So I had planned this big day to visit all the places that we first met when we moved here, and a grand tour, a big hurrah. And at the end of the day, I wanted to take us to the spot that we first stayed at, just for nostalgia's sake. And so we were walking in the parking lot, just talking. The moon was out. It was a beautiful, clear night. And I was like, all right, now's the perfect time. Now's my chance. So, actually, should I mention the thing that happened before, Joel?
Nah, it's fine. It's funnier.
Okay.
The Joel part's way funnier.
Okay, gotcha. So, I'm like, all right, so now's my moment. I reach into my pocket and I start going over the thing that I had rehearsed, because go figure, actor, right? And I began with, so, if I just wanted to say thank you so much for the time that we spent together. And if you would have me, and before I could even finish that sentence,
my phone rings. It's been a great night. It's been super romantic. There he is. The hand goes into the pocket. He's down on one knee, and I'm starting to feel all the things that like, oh
Sure.
no, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. And then my phone rings, and I was like, surely I can't answer it right now. But I look, and it's Joel McDonald. And there's no reason for Joel to have to call me. Like, we work together, but he could text, and he has texted. So
actually, what he did, your phone, your buzzer did go off for a text message, and we just ignored it.
Mm-hmm.
And we just started again.
Yeah. And I was like, this is an emergency. He texted, he's calling, this is an emergency. It must be bad. He's dying in a ditch somewhere. And for some reason, I'm the only one who can save him. So I answer, and he informs me that he is feeling very, very ill today. And tomorrow is the first day that he starts directing Assassination Classroom. Except there's no way he's gonna make it, and he needs to know if I can do it instead.
Okay.
At which point I go, hang on, and he needs to know now, because of course the company has to figure out, are we scheduling people, are we getting, like, this is, the turnaround times on these are tight, we have to know right now, and I honestly don't know if I'm available tomorrow, so for the next 5 minutes, I'm looking at my calendar and coordinating with Joel whether or not we can do this.
Meanwhile, the doofus with the ring is still on his knee.
Oh, I was going to ask, were you still on your knee?
Yes! Waiting patiently.
Okay.
You know, part of it and part of organizing anything is checking to see if, you know, Micah's schedule fits with mine. So after talking with Joel about all this, I turned to Micah, who is still on his knee, who still has this box
on my
out,
knee,
who still has this gorgeous ring, the one that I've always wanted.
Yeah.
And I turned to Micah and I'm like, I'm gonna say yes. I mean, to Joel. Is that okay with you? Can I say yes to Joel for our schedule? So the next 5 minutes after that are Micah and I coordinating our schedules to make sure that we can get this done. And then
Taking
I tell
out my
Joel,
phone, looking at my calendar.
Can we do
Still
this?
on my knee, by the way.
And you're in a parking lot? Is that right?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay.
So finally we get it sorted. Yes, sure, I can do it. I can make it. We're gonna do this. The schedule goes. The anime continues to get dubbed. Everyone is saved. Assassination Classroom is saved. I hang up, turn back, and it's like, right, where were we on this other conversation?
Oh my. And so when did you tell him that he had interrupted that moment?
Oh goodness, I don't remember.
The next time we saw him, which was like a couple days later, which was funny to me because he was so embarrassed by it. Yeah, you know, one of those things where, like, if you're embarrassed by something before it even gets out, you try to be the first one to tell the story, so you kind of alleviate that sort of awkwardness.
Sure.
I kept getting stopped by our friends in the hallway. Like, Ian Sinclair stopped me, and he was just like, "Hey, by the way," I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Joel told me." I'm like, "Joel told you what?"
Told you what?
Like, that he ruined your proposal. I'm like, wow, he's just telling everyone now.
Oh man.
That's a great story, though.
It's a good story. He refuses to call me now. He will not call me for anything.
Yeah,
Like,
he just refuses flat out.
One day he will be dead and like dying in a ditch somewhere, and I will be the only person who can save him, and he will text anyway.
Yeah. And I'll just accept my fate. He had the one.
Yeah.
That's so good. Wow. Okay. I'm glad you told me that story. Now, how long had you two been together at that point?
Let's see. That was in 2014.
Yeah.
So,
couple years.
From 2009.
Yeah, we
5
started
years, yeah.
dating in 11? The when we started dating is fuzzy, but some years.
How did you guys meet?
Through work.
Through work, yeah.
Okay.
It's boring. It's not nearly as good as the Joel story.
No, it's not.
So you were both just through like Funimation or through just voiceover or what? Okay, gotcha.
We both started on the same show, in fact.
Which show was that?
What was it called? Tower of Druaga.
The Tower of Druaga. Yeah.
Oh, I remember that one. I didn't see it, but yeah.
It definitely exists.
It had a good opening from what I remember.
It did.
Oh, solid first episode.
Now, Micah, I met you at a con first.
Yes.
And I want to say it was in Wisconsin?
Yes, I want to
I
say that too.
I believe it was, because I think it was one of those cons where it was, like, freezing outside, so there was nowhere to go.
Yeah.
But we were in, like... What were we in the Wisconsin Dells? We were something like that.
Yes.
And I just remember it was you, me, and the other guest was John Swayze. But you and I just hung out. We just hung out the whole con. From what I remember, just like we found like secluded corners to just sit and just talk for every evening. And I was like, this guy's a cool guy. I like this guy.
We definitely bonded over the fact that there weren't necessarily a lot of places to eat, and from those places, they weren't very good.
Yeah, that's right. It was a very friendly con, and I had a good time, but food-wise, which we're going to get into in a second, not a whole lot to...
It was a bit tough.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then I believe I met IU when I came in to Texas one time.
Yes.
Yes. And we got food. I forget the name of the place. I forget offhand, but it was. I was like, oh, what a delightful encounter. And we kind of bonded. I mean, both then and the second time over food. Yeah. Which I would love to dive into.
Oh dear, are you sure? Are you prepared?
How long do we have?
Oh, I'm very sure. Why don't we just start with some simple stuff? Like,
sure.
I know. I'm sure we've already talked about this, but for the viewers' sake, let's start with favorite food. Just favorite food, both of you.
You first.
Thanks. Here come that bus though. Beep beep. Favorite food as of exactly right now would be tacos.
But any specifications on those?
I've been really getting into birria as of late.
Okay.
Those are pretty good. They're the ones that are like fried sort of in the juices and the fat, and so they have that nice bright sort of red color to them.
Okay. And they're served with a consomme.
Yeah, those have been incredible. But really, any street tacos I am down for. Any fast food tacos I am down for. I am not a picky human when it comes to tacos.
That's
gotcha.
True.
And how about you, Micah?
I tend to flip-flop between Southern barbecue and actually really anything barbecue and sushi.
What's your favorite cut of meat or cut of barbecue, and what is your go-to sushi order?
Ooh, I'm a big fatty brisket fan.
Ah, my man.
It's very good with a nice bark on it.
Yes.
And because I'm more of a sushi snob, I do prefer a chef's special.
Okay.
So whatever the sushiya has planned for that day, I'm down for.
Any favorite pieces though? Anyone you're like these? These are some of your favorites. You love it all.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you? Are you a sushi fan?
Big fan. Once in my life, I actually managed to have Toro.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone who's watched Oron has heard of like fatty tuna, the old Toro, which is literally like, big Toro. I had some Toro fresh, essentially was like, this is what came in today or whatever. And the sushi, I was describing it to me and I was asking, is this old Toro? And he responded back to me in English, no, it's more medium Toro. And I was like, you could have fooled me. It's so good.
We did get Otoro though on our last trip to Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was also excellent.
Super
fatty.
Yeah,
the fatty tuna is very, very good.
Otoro is great. Are you a fan of sea urchin?
It not on its own. I do like it, but I don't like just straight sea urchin.
Gotcha. How about you, Micah?
It's a craving. Occasionally, sometimes I'm like, I do definitely want it, and other times I'm just like, I can pass.
Gotcha. I think my favorite go-to is actually, I mean, I love all sorts of sushi as well, but mackerel. Mackerel for me is
Ooh.
I love a good kind of fatty mackerel cut. That's the shit right there.
I haven't had raw fish in a year. So.
Yeah. Sushi's hard to come by in a pandemic. Yeah, mackerel.
Now-
There's something about mackerel I think that resonates with a lot of Asians in particular.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, the
you
oil
find
and
it
the
in
fat.
bento.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think it's the oil and the fat, the fishiness. I think it's a stronger flavor. Because a lot of people get scared away by like fishiness or whatever, but for me, and I think also like with a lot of Korean flavors, are very strong, very bold.
Yes.
Usually spicy or fish based or both. And a lot of pickling and
Fermented
kimchi,
foods, yeah.
fermentation. So it seems like a pretty natural like fit for me for mackerel. But when COVID, when you are allowed to go to restaurants again, are there any that you are like, these are the ones we have to hit up?
Oh goodness.
I have a very embarrassing confession.
Yeah, what's
but
up?
it's the most millennial thing that I've thought of
Yeah.
in my life. But I cannot wait to go back to hipster, like, foodie restaurants.
Oh yeah, me
You know
too.
what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah.
Dude, yeah, we
Avocado
remember.
toast.
Yeah, I love foodie hipster shit. Like I'm always, every time I travel, I'm always looking for interesting restaurants. I think
we went to one, right?
We went to one with Caitlin, right?
Yes.
Which con was that?
I want to say it was Comic-Con.
Is that Texas?
Alabama. I think it was in Alabama.
Same
Yeah.
thing. No,
I mean, it's the South.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that reminds me of another topic I'll bring up in a second. But yeah. I'm always looking for like new restaurants and stuff, and I think that's also something that we very quickly bonded on, was because there are only like a few of my friends who are like on that level of like food enthusiasm.
I'm sorry and I'm honored.
No, and it's like, it's always like when you find a fellow like food nerd, you're like, yes, same hat, yes,
Same
thank you.
hat.
Same hat.
Yeah. And you mentioned going to Japan. How many times have you been to Japan?
You've been
1,
a number of times.
4.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've been 4 times, yeah.
How about you, Micah?
2.
And where did you go when you went?
We've been around.
Osaka, Kyoto, Hakone, Tokyo.
Yeah.
I think those were most of the areas. Yeah.
Osaka more than anything else for the food.
It is what the nickname is, Japan's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Osaka, I definitely want to go to next. I've been to Japan twice, but both times were Tokyo.
Ooh, nice.
I
the food
really
is
want to
great,
make it
too.
out to Osaka though. Like
Do it.
I think it's a definite at this point. But I just was wondering if you had any sort of food recommendations outside of Tokyo. If you what were some like good eats you had in other cities?
Well, Osaka, I really like the okonomiyaki there. And the Osaka style okonomiyaki that they do. Trying to
Remind me, what is the Osaka style of okonomiyaki?
The way that they put in the cabbage is like mixed in with the batter, and I think Tokyo style is like batter on top of the cabbage, if I remember correctly.
It's like a crepe, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure if I'm
Gotcha.
wrong, someone in the comments will let me know. So don't quote me on this. Look it up for yourselves and do the research. But it's more of the batter and stuff.
Gotcha.
For Osaka
Gotcha.
style.
In Kyoto, there is a market called Nishiki Market. It's one of the oldest markets that they have there in Kyoto, and it's just a bunch of food vendors. It's like those, those arcade shopping arcade type
Yeah.
areas.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you just go from stall to stall, sampling, a little bit of everything. And honestly, that was one of my favorite quote unquote meals. We just spent the day there just eating.
Yeah.
Oh God.
There was this place that sold like fried chicken, and they had all these signs advertising
yeah.
how they had won all of these awards or whatever.
Award-winning
So-
karaage.
Yeah, we're just like let's get in line and get some. And there was a delightful little old lady who took one look at us and went, these wimps ain't gonna do anything, and just slowly edged her way right in front of us and cut karaage before us.
Uh-huh.
And she was right. We didn't do anything.
She was right.
She was right.
We did not
she
deserve it.
She knew.
She knew it was her right.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, she absolutely knew it was her
assertive
right. And
dominance.
It was.
And I willfully went, you're right.
Yeah, like go for it. But it was nice too, because when she did that, it was sort of a sign of, oh, this is so good that you got to get aggressive over it. We're in the correct line.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. I am definitely itching to go back when it's safe.
Absolutely.
I think if the pandemic had not happened, we probably would have went last year again.
Yes.
But yeah, didn't work out. But
Yeah.
Soon, very soon.
yeah. So the memory of us going to dinner with Caitlin reminded me. I remember then we talked a lot about Seiyu. I don't know if you remember this.
Yes.
And do you have the same level of appreciation, like nerding out over Seiyu as me and Micah?
It's around there, I would say.
Okay.
There are a handful. I know a lot of people are hardcores and like know everyone and everything, whereas there are just a couple who are my biases where I'm just like, if they're in it, I'm showing up.
would
Here I
love
am.
to hear them. What are they?
Let's see. Ami Koshimizu.
Yeah.
I can't not. This is, I wouldn't even call it an old school, middle school maybe. Mamiko Noto. Big fan.
Oh,
Classic.
I'd say it's sad, but it's kind of old school a little bit at this point.
It's a
right?
little bit
Nowadays,
old school. Now,
yeah.
people don't appreciate Mamiko Noto the way they should. And that upsets me, is all I'm saying. Big fan of Saiga Mitsuki. Incredible work, incredible voice. Always blown away. Yeah, those I think are some of my top ones.
Those are some good choices. Yeah, Mamiko Noto is definitely one of my favorites in like period.
Yes.
I mean, all three are great though. I'm trying to think of other Seiyu. Micah, who are some of your favorites?
Again, it's a little older because that's the era of anime I grew up in, but like Takahiro Sakurai,
Yeah.
Yes.
Hiroshimono, Miyu Irino. Let's see. For a while I actually had like a little list of Seiyu that I wanted to like portray the same characters as.
Oh yeah. That's cool. I would love to hear some of those.
Yeah. Recently I was really happy because it seemed so unattainable. But I got to play an Akira Ishida character.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I got to be in the remake of Sayuki, and I took over the role of Hakai in that, and it was like, oh wow, I didn't think I would have a chance to do this. What's his name? He's I always forget his name. Nobunaga. Shimazaki.
Is he a newer one?
He's one of the newer ones. He's the new voice of Yuki in Fruits Basket. But I started hearing his work recently, and he's very good.
He's what do I know him from? Let me look him up. But yes, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, with the newer guard, I'm like less familiar, but I still have an appreciation, of course. Yeah, no, I don't do a ton of dubbing, but I've definitely like been like, ooh, but I got to match. Like I've done the same. Like, ooh, I got to be this good. I think like some ones I got pretty excited about was I did Fumihiko Tachiki.
Oh, which one? Who is that?
He's you ever watch he's in a lot of stuff, but you ever watch Kaiji?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's the narrator, like Kaiji.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I got to we play the same character in Grand Blue Fantasy versus, and I was like, ooh, I'm a huge fan of his work. And then like Kape Yamaguchi in Radiant, I was like, oh man, like I nerded out about that.
Classic.
Now, are there any Seiyu that either of you have found you have played multiple of their roles? Like,
I've done a couple Rie Kugimiyas.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
She's
That's
great.
right. Yeah.
and I think a couple Aoyuki.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, more than a couple at this point, I think. Both of whom are incredible. So anytime I hear them, it's like, oh, cool.
Yeah, they're amazing. How about you, Micah?
Oddly enough, yes. My first big role was Soul in Soul Eater, and that was voiced by Koki Uchiyama.
Ah, yeah.
And I think we've played like 5 or 6 of the same characters by now.
Damn.
What's weird too is that we are the same age. I looked him up recently, and I was like, oh yeah, he was born the same year as me. But even freakier, we're about 7 days apart?
Wow. It was destiny.
It's like something about the vocal cords in that time period lined up.
Positioning of the stars made it happen.
But yeah. And I've done a decent amount of Miyu Irino's characters as well. Like 3 or 4.
Yeah, no, both are great. I am always, it's like, I think we stumbled upon, I think, 2 big interests, which was food and Seiyu. I was like, all right, this guy's a G. This guy's a fucking G.
When we were hanging out, the selling point to me, that the mark of trust was you saying that Chihaya Furu was one of your favorite shows.
Oh, that's right. We did talk a lot about anime, and I was like, this fucking guy. I was like, okay, yeah. Because I've talked about this.
Culture.
Yes. I've talked about this on the podcast before. Like, for me, I don't like to say that I'm closed off, but for me, I tend to really get if some voice actors are very on, right? They're very on, and they don't necessarily like. I'm like, do you have any interests outside of your job? But with you, I was like, this guy's not only he's a fucking nerd, he's got good taste, and he's a chill dude. So I was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna get along just fine. So I'm glad that my liking Chihaya Furu what was a selling point, because I'm always trying to get more people to watch it. But the fact you'd already seen it, it's like, wow, this no-brainer here. You know what's
destiny?
You know what's funny is a previous guest. Do you guys know Youngie?
I don't think we've met.
Okay,
like, familiar with work, but never met.
Got it. He was on the podcast on a previous episode, and he was telling Caitlin Glass, they're like, I'm watching Chihaya Furu. I didn't ask him to do this, by the way, but he knows I like it. He was like, I'm watching it in prep for a podcast, and she went, oh, is it Sungwon's?
Oh, that's fantastic.
Without any saying who it was. I'm like,
no hesitation.
I'm so glad my reputation for loving this show precedes me.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it really is one of the best. Now, we've already talked about this, but for the listeners, and favorite anime, both of you. Micah, what's your favorite anime?
Ooh. Currently, I'm going to say Noragami.
Okay.
I've been following that series. Didn't mean to become a fan of it. It was just sort of a thing that I did for work, and then I fell in love with it completely.
I should watch that one. I haven't seen it. How about you, Ayu?
Oh goodness. Oof. The one that I keep going back to is Detective Conan, Case Closed.
Are you current?
I'm pretty current.
Damn. Do you watch the
Long
show
time
or
fan.
you read the manga? Do both?
I started watching because as a kid I actually wound up getting a lot of anime that wasn't already localized into my eyeballs. And so I was watching it pretty much when it started airing in the 90s. Yeah, my parents were big on giving me all sorts of extra stuff to look at. They didn't like me watching a lot of cartoons for some reason at home, which makes me really sad because now I'm like, I don't know what Gargoyles is. I'm sorry. But they would import a ton of stuff, and I would watch all of that. So the fact that it's still going is pretty great. I just missed the door closing at Funimation. Like the first day I was there, I heard everyone talking about how they weren't dubbing Case Closed anymore, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, they wrapped the final movie they dubbed, I think, in the months that we started.
I see.
The very end, and I was just like, okay.
I've seen like the first. I actually was like, I'm gonna watch all of Detective Conan. Of course, I didn't, but I did watch a good chunk, and I enjoyed it. Like I watched, I think I want to say 20, 30 episodes, and I just kind of got sidetracked. And I've also seen, I think, 3 or 4 of the movies as well.
Yeah,
and it's very fun. It is wild to me though that it is so popular with kids. Because it's just every episode is a murder. It's like
people just die.
But back when I used to teach, my previous job before any of this was I was an ESL teacher, and I used to teach a lot of Korean kids, and it's really popular in Korea too. And they so it was just so interesting, like with like hearing like 5-year-olds be like, "Oh, Conan," but they're like, I'm like, you guys watch fucking Detective Conan? like again, it's just like, oh, this guy got strangled to death. How did he get strangled to death? I'm like, wow.
Brutal.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I lost my train of thought. Anyway, yeah, that's a very fun show. And what other shows did you kind of grow up with in that same fashion that maybe other people did not watch when they were young?
So this one actually does have a dub. I've discovered it's Koala Boy Cookie.
Okay.
Which is about this. I mean, it's just some koala running around having adventures. This anthropomorphized fella and his animal friends, which was a really good one. And there's another one that I did watch the dub on VHS. I think it was a Japanese-Russian production. And I believe the localized title was called Scamper the Penguin.
Okay.
Scamper the Penguin.
Yeah, and it was about penguins. And it was like, there was all this science in it where they were like, this is how penguins mate and the journeys they make, and the mom's going to the ocean to bring back food, and the dads keep the eggs more. So, like, you learn a lot of penguin facts as well. This long, awkward pause as I go, did I just watch a documentary?
I'm looking this up. Interesting. Okay.
So watch that one. And I did watch the localized version of that. I think that the localized version has cut some stuff out or maybe changed a little bit around. And so now, of course, like the purist in me is like, well, what did I miss out on?
Apparently,
but I remember
this,
watching that.
like, released in the, I don't know if I'm mixing these up, in the Soviet Union? Like, yeah.
Wow. Like, how did you get this?
My parents found the wildest stuff.
Is this, if this is the show I'm thinking, you said it's called Scamper the Penguin?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. This was a Soviet Union Japanese co-production. Wow. Okay.
Yep. Grew up on that.
Wow.
Was it in English or was it in Japanese?
Yeah,
or
they
was
dubbed it into English.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that reminds me of a tape I had. I doubt you two know what I'm talking about, but there's a Korean character named Dooley the Dinosaur. Have you ever heard of this?
I have not.
Gotcha.
I'm not familiar with that.
Well, Dooley the Dinosaur, he's a little green dinosaur. He's got magic powers, and he in the 90s and 80s very popular. I loved that fucking dinosaur, but I remember my cousins owned a tape of like one of the, I believe it was the Dooley movie, but it was dubbed in English, like fully dubbed, and I don't think anyone had credits. Like there were no credits. I recently found it on YouTube and was like listening to it again and going, "What? Why was this dubbed? Who dubbed it? Because
Who's this like, for?"
Exactly. It was so bizarre. And I remember as a kid going, because other Dooley tapes were in Korean, and I was like, "Why is this one in English?"
Just the one.
I just can't imagine like the voice actors back then going, "What the fuck is this shit?" And just like, all right, well, job's a job.
Let's do a paycheck.
What was it a good dub?
It actually, I mean, you know what? Like it had a lot of. It was dubbed like a kind of like as if it were a Western cartoon style. You know, very cartoony. So it wasn't actually like bad. Like
it was watchable.
It was kind of in a charming like what you would see on like a Saturday morning cartoon voice acting, as opposed to like you know, just people who just phoning it in and don't give a shit.
Like a 90s dub.
Yeah, like a 90s dub. Like like it was really interesting, which makes it even more like I want to know what the history behind some of that is. But
who brought that over?
Who brought that over and why is my question. Because I also think I think it was in Korea, or I think they got it from Korea. I don't remember. Anyways, I'm talking a lot about this one thing that only like random Korean listeners might know what I'm talking about. But
hey, why not?
Actually, Jay, you're
Deep
listening
cuts.
to this. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Now that I've brought up something that only I have interest in talking about, I like to give the guests a chance, an opportunity to, is there a topic that you want to bring up or a question for me or for the group that you would like to ask? If not, don't worry about it, but I always give the guests an opportunity to do so. Do either of you have anything that comes to mind?
So one question that I enjoy asking people, it's not really a topic per se, but it sort of helps me figure out people's creative process.
Sure.
Is if you could, work on any franchise and the people who are running it came to you and said, we'd like it to be done differently, revitalize, that reboot or whatever, what would it be and how would you make it different from what it is now?
Ooh, so you're saying as in like a show running capacity?
Yeah.
Interesting.
For instance, my easy go-to answer is I'd love to work on Batman, and I would really lean hard into the fact that he's world's greatest detective. So there'd be a lot more like mystery solving, him chasing down clues, a lot less punching, and a lot more trying to unravel things.
Would
like
it be still a serious tone?
Yeah, it would be serious, not necessarily gritty, but it would still be pretty serious. It would just be more focused on the detective aspect of it.
A film noir kind of Batman.
Very film noir. It would pull from in the comic book series, they have this character, Matches Malone. Spoiler alert, it's actually Bruce Wayne running a mob secretly on the side.
Oh, okay.
And he does all this stuff with that, and I would really like to play with that in terms of detectiving as well, because that also plays into the film noir look.
I didn't play them, but from what people tell me about the Batman Telltale games, it seems like they kind of play with that a little bit. I don't know if either of you are familiar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Do they?
So things like that. It does. It's because it's a lot more story based and a lot heavier on that and a lot of decisions you make. But I feel like, especially in the larger the cinema and stuff, there's not a lot of focus put on that side of it, and just a
Sure.
whole lot more on the superheroing of it all.
And the punching. You're right.
Yeah, a lot of punching.
That's a great answer. And would this be ideally like an animated or a comic, or what would be like your perfect way to do this?
It feels like it would be good for like a 1-season live action series.
Oh, you want to do a live action show? Ooh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah. Well, specifically because, I think a lot of people are more comfortable, especially the larger audience, are more comfortable coming into a live action Batman versus an animated one.
I see.
So in that space, it would be fun to sort of play around with all of that, but also have enough episodes that you can tell an actual mystery.
Yeah. So would it be like it'd be one mystery for the season then? Like
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Ooh.
I like that concept a lot. How about you, Mike? I have an answer, but do you have one?
You go first.
Okay.
I'm still thinking.
So, how familiar are you guys with my internet background? Like when I was a kid, have you heard this tale? Do you know this? My
No.
early.
Probably not.
Got it. Because it's been talked about before. I don't know how familiar you are with
Okay.
it. I met my wife and some of my closest friends who I've been friends with for now over 15 years on Mario fanfiction forums. So,
Wow.
Yes, yeah, and we are still friends to this day. Met when we were like 13, 14, and so actually longer. Like, oh my god, like 16, 17, I don't know. Anyway, a long time. But
No, we're old.
yeah, I would love, like, if me and let's say two of those guys, either I think the dream would be like an animated series. Sure, this is something that Nintendo would never allow in a million years. But what we, taking like Mario and doing like a serialized show, animation, where we take the lore as seriously as we did back then. Because especially one of my friends, David, who was a previous guest on the podcast, he is a really good writer, and he has like an encyclopedic knowledge of all the Mario shit. And what he likes to do is kind of like tie it all together. So if like, this is obviously like a impossible situation, but if we were given full reins, the best comparison I can give is how familiar are you with like the Archie Sonic comics? Yeah, where they basically had full reign to do whatever the fuck they wanted, right? Like they had access to all of Sonic's characters. They used all of them and made about 500 OCs.
Yes.
Like, if we could get full control of that and just make a show, even a comic, but a show, that would I would quit everything else I'm doing and just work on that.
That would be really interesting.
It would be very, very fun. So that's my answer. How about you,
You could
Micah?
throw in a lot of like deep cuts of like characters that have just fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with deep Mario cuts or Mario lore. Surprisingly, it has come up several times on this podcast with people I did not expect to know anything about it. But do you know any like obscure Mario characters?
I do not.
Ayu, do you know any?
I am like really out of the video game circuit.
Gotcha.
I'm not a real nerd.
Oh, come on. That means nothing. I think a lot of people who grew up with them like I did, like really, obsessive, especially over like the older games. You just catalog a lot of those characters because you read the manuals over and over again, and you just catalog a lot of that stuff. So I have another question, but I want to hear Micah's answer first to Ayu's question.
Okay. I would like to see a lot of the older like Nintendo games, like the NES games, sort of rebooted in, because a lot of them were like top-down sort of visuals. But for example, I thought what they did with like Breath of the Wild freshen up the Zelda franchise was brilliant.
Yeah.
I would love them to do things like a three-dimensional sort of world, expansive like that, but with the original NES games.
Which ones?
To really flesh them out. Like, well, take the first Zelda game and give it like the Breath of the Wild treatment.
Oh, so you want a remake, but in that style.
Yeah.
Interesting. What are some other ones that you think would be fun in that?
I think some of the cool things that Pokemon has been doing with the newest announcements, like kind of revisiting the older worlds that were all kind of two-dimensional, bringing it into 3D. I think that would be really cool because there's so much to mine from in the original games, but we can't touch them because it's driven by nostalgia, right?
I mean, did you see the Arceus trailer?
Exactly.
Yeah. It looks like it's getting
more
close
stuff
to
like
what you
that.
want.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I'm very excited for that because I think it's what people have been wanting for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, this what is it called, Legends Arceus or whatever? To me, it feels like this is the kind of like beta for what the next gen is going to be like. That's my
yes.
I feel like this is them kind of testing the waters of like how does this work? Okay, and then I think the next gen is going to be probably pretty going heavily into that. I'm very excited to see that. That's a great answer. Any other? Is there one that you're like, this franchise hasn't been touched in decades, but I want like a full revitalization of it?
It's weird, but the other day I was just thinking, like I grew up playing the Dreamcast.
Okay.
And I haven't seen anything about like Power Stone in a long time.
Ooh.
So that would be interesting to see how that could be put out into the current gaming market.
I never played Power Stone. That's a fighter, like kind of like a beat up, like a fighter, right?
Yeah, it's like a Street Fighter kind of game.
Yeah, no,
very fun.
People who love the Dreamcast, they're very passionate about games like that.
They were passionate and unpopular.
Now here's my question. I thought of
my childhood.
My question to both of you is: I have an encyclopedic knowledge of Mario. Is there something that either of you have an encyclopedic knowledge of, like lore wise, character wise? Like are you an expert on any sort of piece of fiction?
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah? What we got? What we got?
Yeah, I tend to do deep dives on Transformers.
Oh shit!
I grew up watching it. Yeah.
Do you stay up to date? Do you read like the comics or whatever?
I fell behind on the comics. I tried to get into the current reboot, but it just didn't grab me like the previous IDW run. But it's one of those things where it's like I know that I'm in a minority and like this is interesting to me, so I never ever talk about it with anyone. And thankfully, IU is kind enough to let me just rant sometimes about it and nod politely. But
I learned a lot of things.
No, I have a couple friends who are in the same boat. Whether it's they started from like the original, animated movie and show and still keep up with it and the toys. And then I even have a friend who he very recently had no interest in Transformers, but fell into it because I believe from what he was telling me, one of the comics in the recent comics had like a pretty good gay romance. Does this sound?
Yes.
I forget.
Yes, very good representation.
What's the character's name?
There are multiple characters.
There's one. Okay, I'm going to describe these two Transformers. There's one that's like a spiky, evil-looking one, and I think he is paired with a good boy.
Is that?
That sounds like a great ship.
Is that Cyclonus and?
Let me look.
No, that wasn't Cyclonus.
He's gonna kill me for, or not kill me. He's gonna be so disappointed in me for
a spiky one and a good boy.
Cyclonus.
I love that.
Let's see.
Yeah, Cyclonus and Tailgate.
Maybe. Let me see if I. Cyclonus. Oh yeah. Wait. What's Tailgate look like? Tailgate.
Like white and blue, tiny friend.
I think this was. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
This was it. This was
I
it.
rescued my street cred.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna tell him. Fucking Cyclonus tailgate came up in an episode. That's great. Yeah, yeah. I love hearing about this. It's funny you say you never talk about this. This is the kind of shit I like to hear. I always,
Nice.
I'm like, what? Okay, yeah, video games, whatever. Yeah, anime, whatever. That's great. But what are you a fucking nerd about?
What do you love?
Who is your favorite Transformer?
I'm a boring person, and I like Ultra Magnus.
Okay.
I saw him in the Transformers animated movie, and I was like, oh, so he's the hero. And then he died, and I was like, what? I don't care anymore.
Ultra
This
Bad
movie sucks.
apparently.
As somebody who is very Transformers illiterate, can you explain who Ultra Magnus is? It looks like he is a chief lieutenant of Optimus Prime.
Well, yes,
boy.
actually. So he was introduced in the Transformers animated movie 1986.
I see.
And
The lore depends. It splits. Either he's like one of the oldest friends of Optimus Prime, or his brother.
Okay.
But he has a very like humble sort of mentality. He doesn't. Leadership was pushed upon him, but he considers himself a soldier. So he has that sort of like sacrificial personality. But he is a stickler for the rules. So
completely just only you and I care about this. Do you want to know a Seiyu that voiced him?
yeah.
It's one that was brought up in conversation in this very episode.
Ooh.
Was it the dude from Kaiji?
No.
The narrator? No?
Akira Ishida
What?
voices him in Q Transformers Mystery of Convoy.
Oh my
It looks like it's a
God.
video game.
The old video game, the really bad video game.
Other ones, you know Sho Hayami?
I do not.
You ever watch Bleach?
Yes.
He was Aizen in Bleach. Or he's Wolfwood in Trigun. Hochu Otsuka is great. He's Jiraiya in Naruto, if you're familiar.
Nice. Yeah. In the most recent Netflix series, I guess, like they brought back the original Japanese cast for the most part, and a couple of like the newer players for those characters. But since the original dude who voiced Megatron passed away, it was the original Ultra Magnus that took over as Megatron, and everyone was like stoked because it's like, oh, that's a good choice.
Is that I'm looking on the page right now. Is that Banjo Ginga?
I can't remember.
Let me see, because he's also great. Let me see. What was that show called?
Siege, I believe. Siege or Earthrise.
Siege. I can't find it offhand, and I will just we'll never know.
It's okay. Someone can correct me.
Somebody will find out for us.
There's a comment section, right?
There you go.
Now, Ayu, do you have something that you have an encyclopedic knowledge about?
Oh goodness, this is embarrassing. In a way, it's incredibly narrow.
Okay.
So it is not a franchise. It is not even a single show. It is one character.
Uh-huh.
And that is Tim Drake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Care to elaborate?
You say care to elaborate as if you don't know. I'm already like, let me talk about Tim. Have you heard the good news about Tim Drake? Tim Drake is one of the many Robins who appear in the Batman franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like a pretty casual fan of the franchise overall, but Tim Drake in particular is important to me because he's the only character from that story that chose to become a hero without losing anything in the process.
No tragic backstory.
No tragic backstory. Because a lot of the story is something very tragic happens to someone, and in their way to combat that, they become a hero.
Sure.
Which kind of has this sense of like, well, yeah, when bad things happen to people, oftentimes they rise to the occasion. And we hope that doesn't happen to people, but that's often how these stories play out.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, Tim, who had all the things that people would want, he's good in school, he's got a girlfriend, he's got a stable family life, all of those, simply saw that there was a need in the world and decided to become a hero because of it. And I really appreciate that in the story arc.
Mm-hmm.
That someone just sees that there is need for good, and even if they're doing fine, my life is good, they were still willing to sacrifice and do good and all of those things anyway.
I see. If I'm remembering correctly, is he's the one who's in the new Batman Adventures, right? The one that's a kid.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's an interesting one because he's a little bit in the animated series. They merged him with the Jason Todd character type as well. Oh no, here come the words. Crap. Oh no, here come the words.
Here come the words. Yeah.
Yeah, because Jason Todd was like running around the streets stealing things. In fact, in the comics, Batman first found him trying to steal the wheels off of the Batmobile. And so they've got a little bit of a story merge because in that one, in the animated series, Tim Drake is called that, but he doesn't necessarily come from that nice, happy household previously mentioned.
I see.
Or anything like that. But I love him too. I tend to follow Tim Drake through the comics, the animated series, the movies, everything. Again, I'm not much of a gamer, so I know he's in the games, but I don't follow that as well.
So you just like, anytime you're like, Tim Drake's in this comic, you're like, I gotta read it.
Pretty much.
Damn, that is dedication. I love this. Okay.
Like, I own like just 2 or 3 issues of many, many different series because when I hear Tim Drake shows up, so do I.
Can confirm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is great. I always love hearing about like people's what do you call it? Passion for like a character. That's so good. Now, Micah, I asked IU about, you know, a topic or a question. Is there one that you want to bring up or ask?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Why not?
Sure. What do you got?
Let's make some people angry. Why not?
Okay.
Oh no.
In your opinion, what defines the perfect food?
Ooh, perfect food?
Mm-hmm. Like a dish or something that encapsulates or represents the perfect balance for you.
For me, interesting. Do you have an answer?
I have kind of an answer.
All right, you start. I'll think.
I will say, for example, it's not necessarily my favorite. It's one of my favorites, but it's not top of the list. But I believe that tacos are a perfect food.
Okay.
Because regardless of if it's traditional or fast food or a new take, right, a hipster take, fusion, in its very different forms, and even if it's bad, they're still quite good.
Okay.
They have a balance of vegetables, meat, starch. They're affordable. Like, they check off a lot of those boxes. They can be vegetarian if you need to. So, very well balanced, economically very good, and satisfying. You can eat many of them and be happy. Lifts your spirits.
That's a good answer. I think my definition is going to vary very, very, very differently from yours. I can think of some food that kind of fit your definition, though. Like, for me, I think eggs fall into that category, into your definition for me. Like, I think eggs, like, simple, but so much can be done with them. At their very simplest, a fried egg with a runny yolk is just perfection, you know.
Yes.
Not expensive, you know. I that's one. I would also say just good old white rice also falls into that.
Well, specifically like a something that you prepare like that has many ingredients. Then a dish.
A dish. Okay.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure. Let me tell you what if you were to ask me what I consider a perfect food. You're saying a perfect food for me or for like in
I
general?
mean, it depends on how hot of a take you want.
Okay. Like, are you saying like perfect food for the world or for humanity or for like
I will let you answer that any way you want.
Okay. If the question asked is, in your eyes, what is the perfect food? And I'm going to interpret it for myself. You have a very like noble, like, oh, it's affordable and nutritionally balanced, and blah, blah. For me it's like I'm going to have a very selfish definition. It's like, for me it's like there are types of foods that for me are like perfect foods in that they perfectly encapsulate everything I want in a food.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. I love tacos. Like, I think they're fantastic, and I will eat all of them.
I think for me, a perfect food, and it's my favorite food for, I guess, this reason, is kalbi. And for me, I will say a lot of the stuff I tend to really gravitate towards very strong, bold flavors, and a lot of my favorite foods also very like fatty, which goes hand in hand with flavor, right? So
Of course.
flavor, texture. There's also like for me, there's also sentimental value, right? Growing up eating it.
Yes.
But even that aside, like some stuff that to me is like perfect is like, you know, a ribeye steak, or like bone marrow, or
dude.
yeah. So it's like these very sort of rich, flavorful, impact, strong impact.
Very savory and rich.
Yeah, that's exactly
meaty.
what I tend to go for. If
Nice.
you're like, if you want to think of foods that someone will love, and it doesn't have to be just meat. Like for me, like really good, like Parmigiano Reggiano, right? Like
umami. You love umami.
I love savory. I love umami, and Parmigiano Reggiano has, really strong flavor. You got the crystals inside for the texture, like that really great texture. And I mean, flavor is unmatched, right? Like, it
complex.
and complex, and so there's that as well. And I don't know, I another one, like, have you ever had like really good caviar?
Huh.
I've had caviar. I don't know if it was good or not.
Okay. I've only a couple times in my life have I been able to have like the sort of top shelf caviar or whatever.
Yeah.
And I will say, it's pretty divine. Like, it's like
worth the hype.
Oh, if you like flavors, yes. If you like, it is because I think a lot of people go, oh, fish eggs, but really, what
They're good.
Well, they're good,
fish
but it's less fishy. Like, really high quality caviar is like, it's buttery. It's like, imagine buttery, rich, melt in your mouth, just pure flavor with a brininess, right? That is what it was funny. I was watching a what do you call it? A mukbang YouTube guy, and I love this guy. I'll actually plug him. What the hell is his name? Like Ben. He's like a Korean. He's just this Korean guy, Ben Dean, on YouTube. Guys, this guy's
nice.
great. He's like, I described him as like, imagine the most. I don't know if this will make sense to you. The most Korean American sounding guy. Just like, hey guys, what's up? Yeah, here I am. He lives in Korea, and he will just eat things on camera. And he bought a tin of expensive caviar for the first time. And he was like, kind of saying the same things a lot of people say, like, man, it's so small. It's like, I forget how much, like $40 for like this tiny little thing. Like,
Right.
But then he tastes it, and he goes, oh, he's like, oh, he's like, oh, I think he says something. I'm almost embarrassed because like I want to not like this because it's so small or whatever, and like barely any food, but it's so delicious. And that's the thing. Like, for me, I'm always pursuing that, right? And it doesn't have to be, like expensive stuff. Like, I don't want to be like, yes, only the finest cheeses and caviar for me. No, like, I think oxtail, for example. Like, oxtail is one of that is delicious. So, like, you know, my mom makes a killer oxtail soup, a Korean oxtail soup, and
that's the stuff.
and that is
Speaking
very
my
simple.
language.
Yeah, just oxtail. You know, you put a little salt, some green onion, and but in terms of the texture, the umami, savory, unctuousness of it, that to me is perfection, absolute perfection. So that to me, I'm always like going after that. Anne Marie, my have you met Anne Marie? Maybe on like a call, but I don't know if you've ever met her
Not in person, no.
Not in person.
We'll have to change that at some point. But like, she, like I don't think of myself as like a harsh critic by any means, but I'm also a very honest person, and so she will know if something tastes good if I say. This is if my eyes light up and I go, this is delicious, because then she'll go, oh, okay, it's good. Because I don't, often I'll be like, she'll be like, how's it? Oh yeah, it's pretty good. I'll say, yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like it. But if she sees my face change, and if I say the words, it's really good or it's delicious, then that is like I have found one of those perfect foods. And so
that's how you know.
Yeah, and I think I feel like for you, Micah, and Brandon, I'm sure you as well, Ayu, but Micah as a food nerd, like those searching for those, right? Those like food, those tops of the pyramid sort of food moments is what
Ayu and I frequently go on food adventures. Like we'll just travel, drive out to some place, and just seek out to see if we can find the most delicious thing. We should turn that into a show.
Yay! In the after times.
Someone pay me to eat.
That is my
let's do
dream. That is absolutely my dream. And like, I've been like, if fucking like, I don't even give a shit if it's like Food Network, something was like, hey, you get a show and you can just get the people who like to eat. It's like, great. I'll grab like, for me, it's like I mentioned, there's like a couple of people who are like foodies, including you, Micah. Just like, let's just go. Let's go to fucking.
Heck yeah.
Let's go to fucking random state. Random state. Find all the good food in that state.
Yes.
There was a interesting conversation that I was having with some people, and somebody was like saying, "Oh, this state or whatever doesn't have any good food," and I butted in. And I was like, that's not true.
Statistically impossible.
I think it's very possible for maybe one city or maybe even a couple cities to have not good food. But if you can't find good food in a state, you're just not good at finding good food. You're not looking hard enough. That's I think everywhere there is something to find. Even if you gotta search a little harder or look or maybe go out of your way, but there are always hidden gems, like of food to be found everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ayu was just we were talking about this yesterday. In fact, you were mentioning that food is often tied with culture.
Food and people cannot be unlinked. And that means that if you're searching out food, you also have to understand the history and the people. And I'm going to say a scary word, the politics of where you are in order to find it. And I think a lot of people who aren't finding good food aren't necessarily thinking about the history of where they are, and that makes it harder for them to find it. That's probably my hottest take.
I think that's absolutely true. Yeah. And a lot of stuff is like you see, for example, the history of food, right? There's a lot of foods that like came from poverty, right? Poverty, something like like pig's feet, that was slaves in the South were just thrown scraps to eat, right? But now it's hot cuisine for pig's feet have circled around, and now like gourmet restaurants are like, yes, pig's feet, or head to tail, or not head, but what do you call it, like snout to tail or head to tail cuisine. You know, eating every part of the animal is becoming more popular. Whereas centuries ago, that was just, you had to do that to live. Like you didn't have access to the premium cuts of meat. And here's the thing: pig's feet is delicious. I fucking love pig's feet. Like it's people. It's just people discovering like overcoming like their sort of biases maybe towards food and where it comes from, and just accepting that like food is good, like from all sorts of origins, and I 100% agree.
It's one of those things where I feel like there's a lot of was it plate fright? You know, if something looks scary or psychologically you can't wrap your mind around it, but the most freeing thing you can do is just, if it tastes good and you like it, then just eat it. You know, it's the easiest way to embrace foods that you don't understand, because a lot of them are likable.
I always try to like have people go, just try one bite, right? If you don't like it, that's totally fine. You know, everyone's got their own taste, their own whatever, but try it. You know, I will always try anything once. I apply that to a lot of things in my life, but especially food. Like, I will try it. I'm always looking for like new experiences, and then if you don't like it, you can go, hey, I tried that. I didn't like it, but I tried it.
At least you know.
Why don't we finish off with? I feel like we could keep talking about food for like another hour, but
will go on.
What
forever.
is a food that maybe it could be recent or not, like sort of a quote unquote exotic, or a food that is not normally eaten, an experience like that? I think for me, some of the most recent stuff, I visited Korea a couple years ago, and I finally tried you ever have like silkworm pupa?
Oh,
no, I have not.
It's not, I don't like it.
Sure.
It's something that you like, or what do they, roast them or whatever? They're okay. I mean, they're not bad. They're like fine, but like my mom grew up eating them, and they're kind of like, you can actually, I've seen them in canned form before. But they're just like little tiny little sort of silkworm pupa, and you pop them in your mouth. I describe them as, they're kind of chewy and a little not crusty, but not gristly. That's gross. Like, what do you call it?
Like sandy?
A little sandy and kind of bitter, savory. I was like, okay. I'm not crazy about it, but I'm glad I tried it. How about you guys? Any like recent food, or maybe not this past year, but anything come to mind for a food you had never tried before and finally seeing what it tasted like?
Dang. I thought that was more like, what weird stuff have you eaten? And I always get real sassy and say peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. In some countries, that's considered weird.
Yeah. Right. Oh no, that's it's interesting you say that. Like, I have a friend in Australia who thinks peanut butter is revolting, because peanut butter is not a thing there. Like,
it's weird for some people, and that makes sense.
Yep.
In terms of food like that, I have eaten a non-zero number of chicken feet.
Chicken feet's so good.
Awesome.
Last time I was in Osaka, I was lucky enough to have a kaiseki on someone else's bill. But if anyone does get to go to Japan, I would recommend saving up for a kaiseki. That it's all the local flavors, it's all what's in season, and they are very pricey. So yes, save up.
What
but
is
if
a
you want to
kaiseki
try all
for
the
people who don't
things
know?
in one go, that's the stuff.
Micah asked, "What can you explain what a kaiseki is to the listener who may not know?"
My bad. It is it's a course meal
Mm-hmm.
made from usually local ingredients and whatever's currently in season. They bring out several dishes to you. Each is only like 2 or 3 bites, so that you get to try a lot of things. I guess if you're familiar with the idea of tapas, it's not dissimilar, except that the chef chooses all of it for you. The order they bring it out in is significant. The thing that comes in each course is significant, and they do tend to be pretty pricey, but everyone who has it is very, very proud. Every restaurant that serves one is very proud to show off their version, their kaiseki, or whatever.
Yeah.
And, they're very good, though.
I also was lucky enough to last trip we went to a ryokan.
Ooh.
Nice.
We drove out. I forget the name of the exact city. It was a very small town near Mount Fuji. And they served a kaiseki meal, and it was fucking great. Like
Very good.
oh my god, I love that. So yeah, that's great. Have you guys gone to a ryokan before?
Yes.
Yes.
That to me was like one of my favorite things we did.
Same.
Yeah.
So good.
For me, it was like going into the bath, coming out, and then they had a free beer, like right when you walked out. And I don't even drink that much because of health reasons. But I was like, well, this is gonna be one of those times I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, it's an experience.
It was an
yeah.
ice cold beer out of a ryokan bath. So good. I was like, this is
that's
Very nice.
This is good.
That is real nice.
Micah, any non-typical food that you tried semi recently?
Yeah. On our last trip to Japan, a friend of ours took us out for Japanese barbecue, and turned us on to horomon, which is the fatty small intestine of
that
a
was
cow,
good.
and it was so good. Like
Small intestine of which animal?
of a cow.
Ooh.
Beef. Yeah. And it was like super fatty, melt in your mouth. It was so good that the next day I went out, and when we were having lunch, I sought out a place that was cooking horomon, and I had that with like a beef tongue skewer.
I fucking love beef tongue.
So good.
Beef tongue's very good too.
Horomon. I'm trying to find a picture. Okay, so how would you compare the flavor? Like, I'm almost. Is it like what is it? What is it like? Can you compare it to something?
I mean, the really soft, fatty part of a steak that's not like gristly or chewy, that sort of just melts in your mouth.
Kind of like tripe.
What would you say? Not
goodness.
quite.
Okay.
It's not. It's softer. Like it just melts in your mouth.
Almost like a. You ever have foie gras?
No.
Okay. I think I can picture it. So just like kind of very fatty, very rich.
Yes.
That sounds really, really good.
Yeah. Had that with like a nice cold like oolong tea because it was like the tail end of summer. It's fantastic.
That was good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I am so desperate to go back to Japan. Talking about all this food is killing me. Well, I think we can end it there. Thank you to both of you for coming on. Like, I feel like like I said, I feel like we could just keep talking about food. And I love talking about
Absolutely.
food. But I appreciate you taking the time. And where can people find you? We'll start with you, Ayu.
I'm mostly on Twitter at soy milk pudding, spelled exactly how it sounds. Other than that, we do our art stuff together every Friday night on Twitch, username Hello Painapple, also spelled exactly how it sounds.
All right, and Micah.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at MyOceanEyes, MAI Ocean Eyes. And we have an art account, Hello Painapple, as mentioned before. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And when
Thank you for having us.
We are, of course, and